fact, we're creating a situation like that for people at Cantel Meats Hardware right now. The people who go to Cantel Meats used to be able to just zip around one block. Now they're going to have to zip around two, and that's a local business. We don't dedicate left-hand turns to businesses, but we did. And so I'm weighing that, and I'm weighing, the concept of inconveniencing motor vehicle access, not pedestrian access, because that's a very dense neighborhood. And I know that a lot of people who go to that McDonald's go there on foot. So we're inconveniencing motor vehicle access to this franchise of a multi-billion-dollar business. And it's not as if they can't get in. It just means that they've got to, look and either make the left if it's possible, just like we all do. We all make left-hand turns into businesses. It's just sometimes it takes a little while, a little patience. Or if you kind of check it out, you can see, oh, I can just go around the block and I can get there that way. I just can't believe that a business like McDonald's can't turn a buck because they don't have a dedicated left-hand turn on a state highway. I think that's absurd. Put more balloons up, let Ronald McDonald stand out in front of the business or something. I mean, that's just insane. Compare that to the plight of the small business owner who, because of this dedicated left-hand turn, has no parking. No parking. I'm weighing these two. And then the residents, we heard a presentation from a traffic expert, from an expert on all things related to safety, pedestrian and cars. And the cars that are parked along the side of a road are the buffer zone. And they create a strong sense and a real sense of safety, a real improvement in safety for pedestrians. So, we went and we took all the parking off that road, and that's the former $1 Million Mile. That's where some of the best businesses were once located in Bethlehem. And if you go there and you look at those structures, they are exquisite, and they are all storefronts. So I second what Councilman Reynolds said. If McDonald's loses some revenue, McDonald's will survive. But if more small businesses gain more revenue because people feel comfortable, they can park there, and the residents feel safer to go there, that's the kind of business that we are in the business of supporting. So it doesn't matter that you don't do it right the first time. What matters is when you have another chance to do it right. So I really hope that we make the right choice this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Belinsky.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Maurer.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Donchez.
Aye.
7-0 pass.
11I, the chair will accept a motion to second to add resolution 11I to the agenda. Is there a motion? This would start as Mrs. Belinsky moves. Is there a second? Ms. Dolan seconds. I ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion and to read the resolution. 11I.
The vote to add the resolution, Mrs. Belinsky.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Maurer.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Donchez.
Aye.
11I, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Bethlehem, the Mayor and Controller or other city officials are authorized to execute Amendment Number 2 to lease agreement and other documents deemed by the city solicitor to be necessary according to the terms and conditions made a part for the uses and purposes indicated below. For starters, golf for the golf course, clubhouse, restaurant for operation of the restaurant with a liquor license renewal term of 7 years, beginning on January 1st, 2012, ending December 31st, 2018. Sponsored by Eric Evans and Gordon Maurer.
Questions? Please call the roll on resolution 11I.
Mrs. Belinsky.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Maurer.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Donchez.
Aye.
7-0 pass.
We'll move to new business, rescheduling date of the reorganization meeting from Monday, January 2nd, 2012 to Tuesday, January 3rd, 2012. Chair will accept the motion from Mr. Maurer and second by Mr. Reynolds to reschedule the date of the reorganizational meeting of City Council for Monday, January 2nd, 2012, that is New Year's Day holiday, to Tuesday, January 3rd, 2012, 7 p.m. in Town Hall. I ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Mrs. Zelinski.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Mallon.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Donches.
Aye. New business, members of council? New business? We will move to courtesy of the floor for public comment on any issue. Mr. Long?
Do I need to state my name?
Yes.
Michael Long, 500 Linden Street, Bethlehem, owner of the Long Funeral Home. Earlier this evening, Commissioner Shepherd and Councilman Reynolds stated that funeral homes in Bethlehem, by implication, charge for police escorts. I know that the Long Funeral Home does not, and I'm certain that the Connell Funeral Home does not, and I'm not aware that any funeral home at present charges for a police escort. And I wanted to know if there's any accommodation in the proceedings that would have that stricken for presenting that type of hearsay in a public forum, in this public forum.
No. Chair will accept the comments.
Thank you.
Any other public comments, Mr. Talbot?
Stephen Antalik, 7% Ridge. Over the years, many issues come up, like the funeral procession and the left turn and other issues. And we hope council acts with wisdom. And wisdom comes from two things. Being around long enough or living in the city long enough to get a sense of the community. And that adds to the ability. And I've seen council over any number of years where there was a longevity of members of council of living in the city. That's neither here or there. But what I wish to say is, way back when I used to watch television, I remember Dave Letterman's show had a quiz on his show. And I thought, gee, I'm going to forego my evaluation of council because we proved a point. So maybe we can have a new kind of quiz saying, how well do you know your city? So we can here ask you questions specifically about the city, see whether you can answer them. It's only in a routine council meeting, but on occasion. So I thought, let's start it tonight. How well do you know your city? Okay? You need an answer, but as courtesy of law, I'm free to ask. So if you think I'm being a fool about this, that's okay also. So the question I have for you is, how many of council or anyone on the administration know why Bethlehem is the only city in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has citizens in 2 different counties? Can anyone answer that? Would you like that answer?
No, I shouldn't. No, okay, I'm sorry, I can't.
You can't answer, okay, well, would you like to have, I've been doing a lot of research and I'm a compulsive researcher, so you have to forgive me. So the thing is, would you like to have an official answer?
Yes.
You have 2.
Okay, very good.
You have the floor.
The official answer is, way back when Bethlehem was a borough, there was a borough of West Bethlehem, okay? The borough of West Bethlehem was in Lehigh County, and the borough of Bethlehem was in Northampton County. So when the borough of Bethlehem incorporated the borough of West Bethlehem, it became the borough of Bethlehem, but when they applied for a 3rd-class city way back when, they couldn't, because they didn't fulfill the state law, which says you cannot have a city with people living in 2 different counties. But when Bethlehem and South Bethlehem came, then it became, but that's your answer, so at least you've been educated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Thank you to council for your vote tonight. I know it was the right vote. My question is, when will the implementation take place?
That's for the administration now.
I would, seriously, because of the long delay, I would just like some idea as to how this will work.
Probably in the spring.
Probably in the spring.
The weather right now would permit it. We have to bid the project out yet.
So you will be bidding the project then?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll be checking in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Mr. Rodriguez, then Ms. Monroe.
Eddie Rodriguez, 701 Main Street, Bethlehem. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been after this for years on end. Finally. I would like to, I just talked to Mike Elka with regards to some other concerns that I have now that this has gone through. With regards to the, what Mr. DiGiacinto had mentioned, which is something that I had here in mind. I asked Mr. Elka if there's a possibility of eliminating the left turn lane going up the hill on West 4th Street. In other words, no left, but he said no. So another concern was the left swerving into the right lane. My concern there, which I talked to him also, is the precautionary measure will be if you swerve left to right, so depending on where you put that first meter. Giving motorists enough time to move in that from left to right safely without causing any incidents, any pedestrian incidents, or traffic accidents. That's a major, major concern. But what I would like to touch base is on this is more important, even though that's just as important, is the camera situation, which I had talked about in the last meeting. I had spoken with one of the members of council with regards to that. I understand that the police commissioner has given the individual some feedback. I would take the rest of my time and I will sit, and hopefully that Mr. Sanchez would have the commissioner talk more about if the camera can be taken, or another camera can be taken from Mohican and Pawnee and Mohican and be relocated if you put a camera mount at Pawnee and Dakota, and vice versa. Work within the city with regards to these camera mounts so they can be transferred from one location to another as crime has decreased or not needed in a particular area. These cameras can be relocated for purposes like what I'm requesting here tonight. So with that, can the commissioner come up and elaborate on that a little bit?
Commissioner, you want to make any comment, or do you feel that's something that should be discussed privately? I'll leave it to you.
I can comment.
Thank you.
I understand there's been numerous requests, to have a camera moved, and it's not as easy as it sounds. The cameras that we have work on a mesh data network that each camera communicates with one another, and they form a network, and there's redundancy within the cameras, so you can't just remove one camera out of the system and place it somewhere else without disrupting that communication, and the network will no longer function. There are times, and within the past year, we did relocate, I believe we relocated one camera. It was like at the end of the node, and the signal only goes like out and back from that camera, so that was one that could be moved. Most of the other cameras within the system rely on one another to transfer that signal back to our server. In this past year, I got price quotes to move a camera, and they're alarmingly close to the installation of a brand new camera in the addition. And the price quotes varied anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to move a camera. And we've made the decision that to spend that kind of money to move a camera while we gain an asset at one place, we certainly lose it somewhere else. And we felt spending that volume of money to simply move a camera from one spot to another is not a good use of that much money by any means. I understand by the raising of your eyebrows, you probably disagree, but the cameras that are in the places are, they were selected a number of years ago, and we can't just, there's sometimes that we absolutely can't remove that camera. The hardware would have to remain in place to send a signal, where the cost of moving that camera would actually be higher. So as of right now, number one, we don't have any money allocated to do any camera moving. Well, that's the answer. And it's just not an efficient thing to do. Cameras are in place, so we can add cameras to the system, but we made the decision not to remove cameras, because then you're just leaving a neighborhood that has that camera, without that type of service. And to spend that kind of money to lose service in one place just to gain it somewhere else, we didn't feel was a wise expenditure.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Pungratz?
My name is Mary Pungratz, and I live at 321 West 4th Street. If I stay here any longer, I think I'll take a nap. There are several things that need to be said. Number one, I guess we now have a death tax in Bethlehem, because now I have to be paid to be hauled out to the cemetery. Not only do I pay estate tax, now I have to pay to be put to sleep permanently. I find that taxation to be very discriminating, because the only people who have to pay it are the people who die. You should be more interested in taxing the people who are living. My other concern is I do not like, I will not like the confrontational mood that came at the end of this particular council meeting. Mr. Reynolds is entitled to his opinion. Mr. DiDucinto is entitled to his opinion based on the fact as they look at them. They may not look at them with the same perspective. The mayor has another right to look at things from his perspective. I see no reason to be confrontational. This is the city of Bethlehem, the Christmas city of the United States of America. Now, I will just say one more thing to you, because I have to go home before my car turns into a pumpkin. And it is the most wonderful time of the year. It is the time of the year when we should be thankful for all the good things that we have. We have a great city, could be better. Revenue could be better. But the fact of the matter is, we in Bethlehem are much more able to cope with things than many of the cities across the state, the United States of America, and across the world. There will always be people who have a lot of money. There will always be people who do well with their money, and we always have the poor with us. But there's more than one way to be poor. You can be poor in money, and you can be poor in spirit. And what I saw tonight made me sad. One more word of advice, and that is, usually at this time of the year, we eat ham. And my advice to you is to eat the ham and not to be one. A ham is somebody on the stage who overreacts, who emotes. Oh, I love this terminology. But for all of you, I wish you good health and good wealth in the year to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, Mr. Samayo?
My name is Antonio Samayo. I am still at 1135 East 3rd Street. And I usually sit behind the camera when I film. And when I film, I have caught for the past year and a half a lot of comments. As most of you know, I ran for city council, I used some of those comments. And now that I did not proceed through to be on city council, I feel like I have to retort to some of those comments. So, I'm not gonna name any names, I promise. I am very glad that now there are council members who state that there are certain items that are not functions of government. Skate parks are not functions of government, but we have one, partially paid by the city. What else? Functions of government do include cleaning and plowing the streets properly. Didn't happen so well at the beginning of this year. Functions of government do not include supplying the mayor and the heads of departments with cars. Yet we do that. The budget that you just voted on kept that in. It's a little secret, nobody knows. Another function of government actually is being transparent and making government available to the people. Because after all, it is all about we the people, not you, the governed, the elected. So, was there a consensus to put cameras up? No. Another little tidbit people don't know. Furthermore, if there is a funeral home that's already charging, why aren't they being investigated? Police department knows about it. So, from now on, I would definitely and wholeheartedly expect that if anything ever comes up in front of City Council that is not a true function of government, that it be voted down. And not just be voted down, but also be told in very specific terms why it's being voted down. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grubb?
Danny Grubb, 2420 Henderson Place. As I've been doing Christmas shopping around both the north side and the south side business districts, I've entered into a lot of discussions with some of the shop owners, and I get the sense that they're very, very concerned about the proposed increase in meter rates. And hopefully there'll be some sort of a public hearing along the way at which the public can weigh in on that. It would seem to me that that would be the appropriate way to address that issue, but that's not really why I wanted to get up tonight. I wanted to thank somebody, and that's former mayor and current councilman Gordon Maurer. Tonight will be Gordon's last meeting at which this type of business is conducted. Some of you know, some of you may not know, he was the mayor who took a chance on a 26-year-old redhead. He was a good friend of my father's. There was a great deal of trust between the two of them, and as a consequence of that, a great deal of mutual respect. In fact, I think he was the mayor who hired Dennis Reichert, if I'm not mistaken. Gordy's family is a family that has been committed to this community for many, many years. His brother, his parents. I at one time lived in an apartment in the Northfield Apartments downstairs from his parents and used to see them just about every day when I went up to collect my mail. The public service that Gordy has given to this community is something that is very, very rare nowadays, because it was a total commitment on his part. It wasn't done for personal advancement. It was done because his family believed that that was the way you gave back to your community. I think very highly of Gordy for obvious reasons. Thank you for taking that chance on me in 1977. But I think even more so, I think the residents of Bethlehem owe him and his family a debt of gratitude, because it wasn't just the service that he provided as the mayor, or as a city councilman, it was the sacrifices that his family also had to make at the time he did that. And so on behalf of myself and my family, thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman over the rest, right?
Just wanted to thank you, council, for your decision today. I'm a businessman of two businesses. One's a service business, and the other one's the art gallery. And I think this is going to be a huge change and benefit for not only my space, but the whole community. One thing I wanted to ask was, last I heard when you were talked about this 8 months ago, whatever it was, yeah, it was brought up that you may be allowing parking on non-rush hour times. Is that still a stance?
Mr. Alcohol.
That is correct. Parking will not be permitted during the peak hours.
Okay, so what would that look like?
Probably in the morning, from 6 to 9 would be prohibited in the morning, and in the evening from 3 to 7.
Okay, thank you. Thanks again,
What's
guys.
your name again for the record?
Ronaldo Valentin.
Any other public comment? Gentleman in the back, Carol.
Brian Bond, 1758 West Broad Street. At your July 5th council meeting, Mr. Dana Grubb brought to your attention an incident where a female city employee brought a handgun into work. I have since learned that this handgun was brought into City Hall. A number of employees thought it was loaded. The department head was notified. The two employees reported that, to the best of their knowledge, there was no action ever taken. At the July 5th meeting, the mayor stated that this was the first that he was hearing of this, and that he would certainly look into the matter and conduct an investigation if need be. I find it hard to believe that this would have been the first time the mayor was hearing of this very serious matter after a department head was notified. To date, this matter was never discussed at another council meeting again. Being a resident of the city of Bethlehem and a concerned citizen, can the mayor tell us tonight the circumstances surrounding this incident as to why a city of Bethlehem employee would have a handgun in her possession while at work in City Hall? And also, please tell us what is the result of your investigation into this matter. I would hope that something as serious as this would not just be swept under the rug. As a 14-year employee of the city of Bethlehem, I have never seen so many people that are hired not by what they know, but by who they know. I've seen a lot of employees treated differently because it's different strokes for different folks. This is something that needs to be looked into, and it needs to cease. Plain favoritism is not the way to treat city employees. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Carroll?
Tom Carroll, 248 East Union Boulevard, Bethlehem, 18108. In my follow-up, as my reputation of being Grinch-like, I'm going to follow up on some negative comments that I've asked about in the last several months. We have boards, Planning Board, the Zoning Hearing Board, and the Human Relations Commission, all without people sitting on them that should be appointed. I think the citizens are owed explanations as to why there are vacancies on these boards and why there have not been appointments to these boards. And specifically, the Human Relations Commission, which you all looked at and said it was so vital and so important and was going to protect the citizens of this city. And there's no board, there's nobody sitting on that board. Why has nobody appointed anybody to that board? And then the other failures of the council over the last year. And the most disturbing of them is that, again, years go by after the destruction of Brockville, and we still have no ordinance to protect the historic structures in this city. And we sit and we talk about it, and then we pass it on. Just like today, you finally voted correctly to fix that situation with that turn lane. But as Mr. DiGiacinto pointed out, how long did it take you, and why did it sit that long? How long has old business been sitting there with this demolition ordinance proposal? It's been sitting there unanswered for years. You need to address the demolition of historic structures in the city before something else is destroyed. And you need to address why you don't have a full zoning hearing board, a planning board, and why is there no Human Relations Commission? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Martin, you spoke already, I'm sorry.
Well, it's disturbing to...
Your name and address, please.
Andrew Popichak, 1032 Main Street, Bethlehem. Disturbing to learn that the parking that has been restored is then not going to be abrogated by having these onerous conditions put on no parking 6 to 9 a.m. and 3 to 6 p.m. I mean, the whole idea is to help the businesses out and also the residents. I mean, you might want to park your car there overnight and you go to work at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. It renders a lot of the utility, it negates a lot of the utility of the restoration of the parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.